Charlie Rose is also made possible by these funders.
Welcome to the broadcast tonight. Cornel West and Michael Lerner on understanding the issues that divide Jews and blacks in America.
Historical
Blacks
roots,
resent
so.
Jewish success in America.
Black people are still less anti-Semitic historically than have been Irish Catholics, Polish Catholics.
Blacks are the ones who were last hired and first fired.
And a conversation with Clay Felker, one of the great magazine editors of our time.
News is what gets off of the page and into the reader's mind. And I don't know that that's going to get off of the page and into the reader's mind. I want more substance out of a news magazine because the world gets more and more complicated all the time.
Healing the conflict between blacks and Jews in America and the magic of a great editor when we continue. We begin with the conflict between Jews and blacks in America. The tension in the United States has been growing more and more over the last few years. From events like the Crown Heights riots to the dissension over issues like affirmative action and Zionism and black separatism, the two groups have found themselves at odds. Cornel West is the author of Race Matters. Michael Lerner is the founder and editor of Tikkun magazine. They met over a period of 6 years with a tape recorder between them to try to get to the heart of the divisive and volatile issues that separate blacks and Jews in our country. The results of their conversations appear in this book, Jews and Blacks, Let the Healing Begin. I am pleased to have them here to talk about what they discovered in their dialogue. Welcome. Great to have you.
Thanks.
Good to see you.
Always good
my
to
friend.
be here.
How did this begin? I mean, whose idea was this, Cornel, to say, we need to talk? And out of that dialogue may come some idea or
I'd say
ideas.
very much Michael Lerner's idea. He invited me, based on advice of the late, great Michael Harrington, actually, to come and speak at a conference, 1989, I think it was. And from there, we became good friends and decided that if we were going to focus on social misery in America and try to transform the situation, transform it into a more egalitarian distribution of wealth and power and resources, that we had to highlight two groups that have served as solid pillars for progressive politics in America, namely Jewish Americans and African Americans. And so the dialogue began 6 years ago, and here's the result.
And the tape recording began 6 years ago? Or really?
Absolutely.
And I remember one night you and I were having dinner. Is that right?
That's right.
Somewhere on the west side, and you said, I got to go up because we're going to tape part of
We're out
this
running right
ongoing
back
debate
to another
with
dialogue, but Brother Lerner, you're absolutely right.
What did you learn about African Americans that you didn't know? What was it that Cornel helped you understand about who he is and where he comes from and what color means?
Well, I'll tell you one incident that happened between us that's reported earlier in the book here. And that is, I was growing up in an inner city in Newark, and there was a lot of tension between blacks and Jews. And I was always very scared in my junior high school, my first year in junior high, to go to school because there were these black kids who were kept on coming up to you and saying, got a nickel, and if you didn't have it, you got slugged. And in the book, I was telling Cornel that, and Cornel said, hey, I was that guy. And then Cornel told that he had been into that for a certain amount of time in his life until he had gotten into the church. And through the church and Jesus, his understanding of Jesus, he had really had a transformative experience and gone in a very different direction. Now, for me, at that point in my life, I was hoping, you know, like when I was that kid, I was hoping that those kids who were attacking me could just be locked up for life. And I never had the vision of the possibility of change. And when I got to know Cornel West, one of the most principled and intelligent and loving people I've ever met, and for him to say to me, I was that guy, really brought home to me at a very deep level the kinds of transformations that are possible, number one, and number two, the limited ways in which people view each other through a particular form of behavior that might be offensive, but to not see the full human being behind that behavior and what may have been going on to lead to it and what might lead to its transformation. So when I heard that from Cornel, that was an incredible moment for me. I've learned a lot of other things in the course of these dialogues, but to really get that human beings are not fixed, and that even when there are moments of anger or things that you don't like, that you shouldn't like, that are morally incorrect, that person, that there's a human being there who embodies the Spirit of God and who can be transformed because the Spirit of God is that transformative energy in the world. I got it through this encounter, and made a deep and profound impact.
And I think this personal dimension is very important, even as we talk about various structures of domination and various operations of power in our economy and the nation state. That we're living at a time in which we're seeing the proliferation of vicious put-down, lack of respect, relative paucity of fair-mindedness, and to have a relationship, a companionship, and a friendship that not only cuts across racial lines, but within our communities as well as across our communities, is a way of trying to sustain some sense of hope at a moment in which it seems as if the cynicism and the fatalism and pessimism is overwhelming. And so how do you hold that at arm's length, as it were? Most people, of course, are going to go with the grain because it's fashionable to do so. But I think what we try to do in this text is not simply talk seriously about the levels of unemployment and underemployment, very important, the inadequate health care, the unavailable child care, and so forth, but also to talk about relations that are very important, trying to highlight values of integrity and character.
Let me talk about some of the two important ideas, I think. One is that much has always been made within the black community, and especially within the Jewish community, of the role that the Jewish community played in the civil rights movement, that they, members of the Jewish community, a progressive community that supported the civil rights community as much as any group did. Is that all that it's supposed to be, or is there, I mean, did you go into this? Did you talk about this? And what came out of that?
Sure, no, we've got a whole
chapter. Well, I mean, I think that from our standpoint, there has to be, I think both of us came to agree that the Jewish role was significant. And Jews certainly have a right to be proud of their participation. And there are people in the black world who say, oh, well, it was just self-interest. And I think that we both came to understand that if that's self-interest, we would like to see more of that kind of self-interest, namely the self-interest of people saying, my long-term self-interest is in creating a just society.